Well. If it isn't Dr. Joe, how are you doing today, Dr. Joe?
I was hoping you didn't recognize me, but I guess we're far beyond
Yeah,
that.
you have changed a little bit. I'm
a,
not
a
sure what
little
it
bit.
is.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm doing good. How are you doing, man?
Oh, most excellent, most excellent. We're here again for another week of good times. So
Oh
with
yeah,
that,
absolutely.
I'd like to welcome our listeners and viewers to another episode of Journeys of Not So Ordinary People podcast. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And I'm your one of your co-hosts, Dr. Dave Peltz, and along with me is Dr. Joe Hamlett. We're partners in crime, not crime, literally, just
No.
figuratively. Have to put that out there.
All right.
So yeah, so we're in it. We're in it, and we're into the next year. We're into 2023.
Yes.
We
Right.
kept the topics
Wow.
going, and now we really kind of want to focus on 2023 and what that means and what it looks like, and think about how it correlates or doesn't correlate to 2022.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, so as we think about 2023, we can think about how it applies or doesn't apply to 2022, and think about what worked well last year, and how
Right.
can we continue that momentum and that excitement and that energy. And for those things that didn't work out quite the way we planned or hoped, or our goals, maybe we kind of missed them or by a little bit or a lot of it, maybe we had to change course and direction, because that never has to happen. And what can we do
Right.
in 2023 to recapture that momentum and recapture that drive and that energy and that focus, and kind of start off fresh, wash off our faces and hands, if you will, and just give it that old, I don't want to say college try, because
Right.
we
Right.
don't, it's not necessarily college try, but just give it that, bring it back, bring back that energy and that focus. So that being said, Dr. Joe, what are your thoughts on what 2023 has to bring?
Well, it's funny because I read something the other day, and it was a question posed, and somebody said, "Did 2022 go by fast?" And I'm gonna say yes. It seems like it just
Yeah,
flew by. It
yeah.
really does.
And not in a fun, comfortable way. It's kind of like you blinked and it was like October, and
Right.
then you
It
blink and
just
it's
was, yeah,
January.
it just like you can't even I can't remember a lot of the things that occurred in
Right.
2022. I think part of it was just COVID,
Mhm.
recovery from COVID, just a lot of different things going on. And so, yeah, like you say, you look up, it's October already, and now we're talking about, the new year. So
Mm.
that's the first thing I just want to throw out there, is that the 2022 did seem like it flew by really fast.
Mhm.
But today's point, what have we been doing in 2022 that we want to continue doing? And then what are those things that we don't want to continue doing? Like
Right.
you said, did it work? And you're ready to continue with it, or you're ready to move on? Because now you have to go down that side road, or that alternate, your B version of whatever that plan
Right.
was.
Yep.
So we have talked about a lot of different topics on our podcast this past year. And so if any of those have resonated with you, and if you've been going down that path, or that path of all that information we've been providing, that's great. And again, hopefully you have been trying out some of the tools that we've been providing. And the idea, and we've said it many, many times before, is not that we're trying to give you this exact blueprint of where how you're going to get to your destination, but it's more just things maybe to consider and think about
Yeah.
as you're going along your journey. Me and Dave have said this many times. We wish somebody might have provided some of these tools or some of these tips for us as we were coming through. And we always say this too, it's something to be said about taking your own journey and
Yeah.
experiencing those things yourselves. In a lot of cases, for most of us, that's really how we learn, how we advance, how
Mhm.
we grow. So we don't want to take anything away from that, but we still want to provide you with stuff that's going to help you get to where you want to go. And so
Yeah.
I just want us to, continue thinking about those things that were good, did work, or if you tried
Mhm.
it once and it didn't work the first time, are you willing to try it again? Just
Right.
some of those things. And me and Dave were just talking about that before we got on. you know, are you putting forth your 100% effort? or did
Yeah.
you just try something and say, oh, that didn't work, I'm going to move on?
Yeah.
So that's what really thinking about 2023 for us even is, we made huge strides in where we want to go. And then, we left a lot of things on the table,
Yeah, we
and
did.
we really know that we can do better and we want to do better. And so that's what I hope you all are considering when you're thinking about 2023, those things that you didn't completely, commit yourself to, or those things that you tried, once, and you walked away from it because it didn't work that first time. So that's what I would hope we would focus on in 2023
Yeah.
is just, again, if those things worked, let's keep going with them. If they didn't, put them aside. Or if you didn't give 100%, of your effort and energy towards that, whatever you tried, try it again. A lot of times we think we see everybody else and you see their successes, but like we've always said, we don't know the things that they've gone through or their journey
Yeah.
that they took to get there. Typically we see the end result,
Yeah.
the celebration, the
Right, right. The
happiness.
accomplishment, not all the
Right.
work, blood,
All
sweat,
the
and tears
work
that
that
went
went
into it.
into it. And
Yeah.
and like I say, me and Dave have made huge strides this past year in 2022, but we're really excited about 2023,
Yeah.
making plans to move forward, move in different directions possibly, but keep on doing what's working, but improve on it, constantly improve on it. That's the other thing we always talk about, is that constantly progressing, moving
Yeah.
forward. And it doesn't have to be in huge leaps and bounds where you see a huge transition or transformation in, a short period of time, but rather you can see these small incremental positive changes. And that's what we really like to reference. Is it always does not show up as, like I say, this huge celebration or huge accomplishment, but it's just those, you're moving the ball forward, and
Yeah.
sometimes you don't
And let's
realize
pull
that.
on that a little bit from the what worked well last year, maintaining that momentum.
Right.
You brought up a lot of good points, Joe, and I want to make sure we hit on several of those throughout this conversation. So, let's focus on, for a moment, what worked really well last year. What's keeping us motivated and inspired, and we have all had something positive happen last year. There's always,
Right.
Joe and I are firm believers that there's always a silver lining of some sort. It may not be,
Right.
that big shining star or big lottery where everyone can retire and, the dolphins are saved and, there's no more violence or negativity in the world. It doesn't have to be like that, like Joe said, but, we do want to, think about what worked well. Find those, maybe they're big things, or maybe they're just those
Right.
little things, maybe, just a little tweaking in something made a big difference, or maybe just a little difference. And that's what you have to hold on to. Not everything's, like Joe and I say, not everything's peaches and roses, but it's not all doom and gloom either.
Right.
So
Right.
what can we do, or what can we think back on in 2022, because it was a challenging year for many, many people, coming out on the backside of the pandemic, only to find
Right.
out that, there's still stuff going on, and it's
Right.
not,
Yeah.
didn't go away altogether. So
Right.
and some people were affected in multiple different ways. And we have to, when things are not their best, we really have to really focus in it even more on those positive things that happened, or that we made happen, or that maybe just fell into our lap. We didn't even realize that we had
Right. Yeah.
provided or set ourselves up for those opportunities, but they just happen. And those can be nurturing your network and your relationships in your network, because that's really what networking is. It's a relationship. It's not just a one and done. Hey, I connected with Joe
Right.
on a
Absolutely.
social media platform. How come he's not, giving me a job, or throwing me a bone or something like that? And it's like,
Right.
so what are some of the things in your lives out there, our viewers and listeners, that you can think about? And this does, go back to, again, like Joe and I say, these things are not just individual. Our podcasts
Mhm.
are not just isolated silos. They interrelate on many levels. So, this is one of those reflection activities that we talk about frequently. Take a few moments, whether you're driving, don't drive distracted. That's not what we're saying. But, sometimes for some folks, just going out for a drive or a bike ride or a walk or a jog or a run or something, find your happy space and think about the good things that happened last year.
Right.
We guarantee you there's at
Right.
least
Absolutely.
one
Yep.
out there that happened. And all the muck that might have happened, there's at least one good thing. And even if that means waking up on the right side of the dirt, folks, sometimes that's all you can
Right.
do is take
Yep.
that first step. Again, we're pitching, we're pitching, some of these other podcasts, bringing them in, making those connections and ties. So what are some of the good things that happened to you this year? And again, it could just be, hey, I woke up and put one foot in front of the other today, and that was my accomplishment, and that can be a
Right.
big accomplishment for some folks. Or maybe you did get that promotion, maybe your business
Right.
did take
Yep.
off, maybe you had new additions to your family. We're mixing personal and professional here. Maybe you got a pay raise, maybe things, the wind finally filled your sails, and and the ocean's been bountiful for you. So yeah, for me, I had some opportunities, and some of them came through and some of them didn't. And
Right.
I
Right.
am doing some of the things last year, that I'm really passionate about, and that I enjoy doing. This podcast is one, working with um doing training for some industries, and teaching college again. There's a lot of cool things that happened that I'm very, very
Right.
grateful for. And that I can really say, hey, some of the times that were kind of crappy, but look at the good things that happen. And I'm so happy and grateful and thankful for those good things, because those bad things will bring us down, and you
Right.
got to,
Absolutely.
those positive things are our lifeline that you got to hold on to, our life preservers, or our life jackets, that brings us back up to the surface to catch our breath again. So Joe, what can you think, what comes to mind when we talk about the good things that happened in 2022 for you?
Well, like you say, there was a lot of ups and downs, but you, like you just said, even while I was sitting here thinking, I was thinking in terms of some of those positive things that happened, and the first thing you mentioned was the podcast, and that's absolutely true. I mean, we are almost at a year
Yeah,
of this podcast, and that's
great.
been a huge success for us in our eyes. Even with very small listeners and viewers, but again, as this is one of those things that we
Quality over quantity
enjoy
sometimes.
doing. Yeah, I mean, we enjoy doing it. So it's we're just excited about this next season, next year,
Mhm.
next episodes. We're really excited about. We're about to hit 50, and we're again just last year we were at 0. And
Yeah,
even to that point, we talked about one of our episodes, the fact that we thought this process so long that we would be,
yeah,
mid second year if we had not procrastinated so long and really took ourselves out of the game by overthinking it. So
yeah,
that was a huge win for us. I mean, people may not again realize how long it took us to get to this point,
yeah,
and so now again to be celebrating almost a year. So that is one of the biggest highlights
yeah,
for me this past year was our podcast. But then, like you say, there's other things, more on a personal level, on a professional level that have occurred to me as well. Like you say, had some opportunities this past year to do some different things, engage with different people. That's been all positive.
mhm,
And so I am using those things to heavily outweigh the negative things that
sure,
have
sure,
occurred this past year. So, I yeah, just on a personal level, family things that went, really good this year and exciting. And also with some sorrow associated with
yeah,
those good things too. So,
mhm,
but yeah, and then on the professional side, continue to grow, continue to develop, and so
absolutely,
transition into new role,
continue to
other
learn.
opportunities,
Yeah,
absolutely learning more every day. So that's why I say I'm just so excited about, even though 2022 was a challenge, I still see so many positive things that have come
yeah,
from it, and it has propelled our momentum for this new
yeah,
year. And so those are some of the things without being too specific about them, but really some good things
sure,
along with the bad things. But like I say, it still have kept us focused on the next thing.
Yeah.
And so I think one of the things I do want to touch on is, again, how you mentioned that reflection, that self-reflection. I was just having a conversation with some gentlemen last week, and we talked about that critical self-reflection. You can't go forward. And I also read it somewhere. You
Mm,
can't go forward until you recognize where you are
mm,
currently. I mean, so that's what that self-reflection does for you. It helps you identify where you are today.
mm,
And then you can more clearly see where you're going to go and then how you're going to get there. And
yeah.
so, that critical self-reflection, I think it has something to do with the sports. I think it was a football player. It was a brief, I can't even remember the
It's
caption, but it was
interesting that you
something along
say
that
that,
line.
Joe, because my wife and I, just the other day, we watched a show and it was very inspirational.
Hmm.
And it was very touching. It was a professional entertainer talking about, creating a kind of like a documentary on some of the things that they'd gone through in their life and some changes and that sort of thing. And it really, when you think about it, some of the bad things, as bad as they are, they're bad for a reason, and it's usually to help us learn something or to make us stronger.
Right.
And if we approach some of those things that didn't quite work out the way we want from a slightly different perspective, maybe from a learning experience, or how did that make me stronger? And I know when we're down on ourselves, we're like, well, it didn't make me stronger. It made me feel like crap, or I was this or I was that. Well, yeah, that's natural. That's part of the process of evolving and growing. Sometimes it's painful, but
Right.
when you make it to the other side and pause for just a few moments and think about it, you made it.
Right.
You
Right.
made it. And Joe and I provided many, many examples over the past year on things that challenged us, but we made it through. And this is kind of a nice segue into, you know, the topics of, okay, so what maybe didn't work out perfectly that we can really, you know, think about in a good way to recapture that momentum and drive. And sometimes it's not those big things. Maybe your success is just making it to 2023. And
Right.
for some
Right.
folks, that was the goal, just to make it to 2023. And for those folks who are struggling with many personal professional challenges, we commend you for digging in deep and just staying the course and being strong. And it takes a lot of strength and a lot of support to get there. And we love that you do that, because for the folks that went through maybe some not so great times in 2022, it's 2023, y'all. You made it.
Right.
You made it.
Right.
You did it. It may not have been peaches and roses, but you made it. So
Right.
that's one of those celebrations that you have to make. Check that box and pause and reflect and say, wow, you know may not have been perfect, or maybe it was really crappy and sucked, but hey, I'm here and I made it.
Right.
It's a marathon, folks. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. And
Right.
sometimes just completing the marathon or participating in the marathon is all that's needed.
It's a win. Absolutely. I've been following this individual on one of the social media platforms, and I can't even remember when they started posting. But every now and then I kind of check out what they're doing, and they posted something about their sobriety.
Mm,
They hadn't had a drink. They started on the first day, and they said, I haven't had a drink in one day, and then it went to a week,
mm,
and then it went to a month, and then it just kept going. And even though they're still early in
mm,
this recovery, it's just, again, they made it to the next day. I think you
yeah.
alluded to that earlier in the conversation. Sometimes that's all it is. Even when I saw the first day, I was like, wow, the first day. And now, like I say, it's several months
And,
that they
I'm going to interrupt you, Joe, because you said something important, and whether it's sobriety or anything else, that first step and
the yeah.
putting yourself out there, hey, this is day one, whatever that day one is to you, putting it out there, hey, this is day one, this is day 2, 5,
Right.
10, 20,
Yeah.
50, 80, 100.
Yeah.
You're acknowledging yourself and you're being vulnerable by putting yourself out there, saying, hey, it hasn't been perfect, or maybe it has, but chances are you've had some challenges in there, but you're putting yourself out there, and
Right.
you're acknowledging your efforts, and you're acknowledging the self that is you. So go ahead.
Right.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I think to your point, that was kind of where I was going, that person, for them, that first day was very important. And then the second day, and then the third day, and then the first month. And
Mhm.
that's exactly kind of what you're describing, the fact that they're putting that out there. They're being vulnerable, but they're being true to themselves by, really looking at the progress they made and celebrating those days every day. So I
Mhm.
thought that was powerful. That again, for some people that have never had that experience or never gone through something like that, it may not seem like such a big deal, but in their case, that's huge to them right now.
Absolutely.
That's you know momentum, pendulum swinging, activities. And so
Mhm.
I think, to your point, like you said, that first step is a win, and every step after that is another win, because you are
Yeah.
progressing. And that's why I kind of go back to what I said earlier about celebrating even those little things. And if you really take a look back at the year 2022, you'll recognize some of those really small uh, positive steps that you made, and they
Mhm.
may, you may not have reached that entire goal or the end state, but you have been progressing along the way. And that's
Yeah.
why I say, me and Dave had a kind of conversation before that, and that's what we're excited about, that where we are today as opposed to where we were last year. So
Yeah. And you
it's
brought up
all
something earlier on. I'm going to interject again, that everyone's journey is not the same.
right,
So, when
right,
we start thinking about that, we might be thinking, and people can get judgy sometimes, and that's normal. We just need to put ourselves in check and realize it. But what maybe seem incidental to us may be huge for that person.
absolutely,
What
yeah,
we take for granted may be
yeah,
a huge challenge for someone else. I had a great
yeah,
conversation with one of my military buddies last week, and you know, uh, he's another great source of inspiration to me. And you know, his life puts my life into perspective. And when I look at the things that he's been challenged with and overcome, and the things that he's doing, I'm like, talk about perspective for me. So where am I going with this? You have to respect other people and their accomplishments, no matter how
absolutely,
big or so small.
absolutely,
Because to Joe's point, one of the first things he said is, you don't know what their journey's been like in 2022. So
right.
let's kind of shift. We've got about 7 to 10 minutes left here. Let's kind of shift the direction again, going forward for 2023. So what does that look like? What does 2023 look for us? We've just started 2023. It's early. Many of us are returning back to work. As fun and enjoyable as that is sometimes, and some of us do love our jobs, and Joe and I do. It's just, you know, it, I mean, some people love to work. I love to work for the weekends, to be honest.
Right.
So, what does 2023 look like for the collective us and the collective we? For me, 2023, and Joe kind of mentioned and alluded to that, is, we're pressing forward with this, folks. We're all in on this podcast. We're all in on a handful of other, things that Joe and I have on our plates, and we're, you know, our we got a little tired towards the end of 2022. I'll admit, you can only sprint for so long. So we caught our breath, and we're catching our breath, and we're sucking up that big breath to start running again for
Yeah,
2023. And we've got some great ideas coming forward, and we've got some new topics we're going to talk about, and we have some goals for this year,
right.
and that's what we want to emphasize to y'all is, what's motivating you, what's inspiring you, what's driving you, what do you want to accomplish this year, whether it's one foot in front of another, or are you looking for that big bang type thing. So what are your thoughts on that, Joe?
No, I agree with you 100%, Dave. Like you said, we're excited about the next year on the podcast, but then, like you said, we got other things that we're looking at every day. Me and Dave, toward the end of the year, we just been looking at, like, man, what do we do now? We're having to, like you said,
We're like two
organize
kids in
and
a candy shop.
categorize. Yeah. We are really excited every time we, talk about something. We write it down, we text each other. We just,
Yeah,
want to talk about it immediately, because we're just so excited about 2023 and beyond. And so
yeah,
that's, for us, what we've done is kind of reflected on this past year, and just looked at some of the things that we did. And we're like, wow, I forgot we had even done that. But
Yeah.
now, we've already got this. Let's continue to build on that. And
Yeah.
that's what we're excited about is, this coming year is just going to be phenomenal again. We're going to keep rolling and keep moving. And
Mhm.
like you said, we got a lot of things in front of us that we're excited about. And I'm sure as the year goes on, we're probably going to see some more things that we're excited about and,
Yeah.
incorporate them in some form or fashion. So that's for me, like David said, like kids in candy stores. We're really excited about where this next step is for us, or this next level. So, but it did take that critical self-reflection, having several
Absolutely.
conversations about where we are today, what we're looking for in the future. And then again, that kind of helped us realign to, okay, let's do these things. Let's slow up on these. And so, yeah, it's that reflection piece. It's
Mhm.
that just really continuing to look at how to make what you got going on better, how to
Yeah.
improve upon it. Because again, there's probably something that you can build upon from 2022. And like, we don't want to just throw it out
Mhm.
like it never happened. But again,
Yeah,
look at those
it's helped
things.
get you this far. It's helped make you
Absolutely.
who you are
Right.
today.
Right.
Everything that's happened has helped build you into the person, or shape or mold you in one way or another, and in the person you are today. And we're not
Absolutely.
saying we have all the answers. And, again, everyone's journey is different, even though the end result might be the same. The
Right.
journey, we all have
How
our
to
own
get
journey.
there.
So,
Right.
um, to that point, it's important to emphasize, again, what does 2023 look like for you, our viewers and
Right.
listeners? Your journeys are much different than ours. And one of the things that Joe and I like to emphasize is that these podcasts are not just, well, they are Joe and I having fun, but and we're trying to be comedians sometimes,
Yeah,
but
that never
not yet. It's
works.
not
But
working though. But as long as we make each other laugh, I guess that's what's important. But as we go forward into 2023, what are we really thinking about? And where I was going with this is, Joe and I share this information, this knowledge, these experiences, and we provide advice and guidance, and we live what we preach. We live what we
right.
talk about. And sometimes Joe pulls me back on track, and sometimes I pull Joe back on track. And we support each other, and we have good times and bad times. And sometimes it's, hey Joe, what's up Dave? And we talk and vent and celebrate, and that's the important thing. So we do practice what we put out there, and we live by it. This does work. And it's not, again, it doesn't mean you're going to be making 25 figures, overnight, or you're going to have your dream job in 5 minutes. These
So,
things
so
take
Dave,
time.
you gonna, what is 25 figures?
I don't know. It's a lot. That's what I'm saying. I'm sure everyone would like to have that number in somewhere in their life,
Okay.
age, not denominations of currency, number of homes, whatever, the amount of people in their
Okay. All
networks.
right.
It's a lot.
All right. Okay. I was just
Yeah,
wondering
what
if
does
anybody
a
else, everybody else probably sitting there like, what is 25
that's a lot
figures?
of commas and
Right.
zeros, isn't it?
Okay. Uh,
So what are we doing and thinking about to really make 2023 an even better year? And we don't know what 2023 has in store for us.
right. Right.
We're not fortune tellers, and it could be is significantly different in a good or bad way than the
Right.
last year. But it's what we make out of it. What is our attitude, even when things get dirty and are not fun? What is our attitude? What is our perspective? What are we doing to help keep our focus so we don't get sucked down and start that really bad, negative, vicious cycle? What are we doing to make sure that we can stay on top of that and stay on the top of our game, as challenging as it can be sometimes? What are we holding on to carry us through this year? What are those goals? What are those stretch goals? What are those little inch stones and milestones, those daily things that we can celebrate, to keep us
Right.
going?
Right.
What are we thinking of, what do we want to do this year collectively, so in the last few minutes, Joe, what are some of your closing thoughts, or final thoughts for today?
I think one of the things you mentioned is very important for this to be for you to be successful in looking at 2023, and you brought up the fact that having someone support you or help or pull you back in or help you see, some of those things. And you mentioned me and you do that for each other. And of course our spouses do the same thing.
Absolutely.
So I think that is very important to have that support system, if
Mhm.
it's just one person or two people or 10 people, but somebody you can go back and they can help you reflect on some of those things that were good in
Mhm.
2022
Mhm.
and remind you of those things. And so I'm sure, or hopefully, you have someone that can do that for you, because that's a huge part of it. Because, we've said this before, a lot of time we can't see our own advancement. We get so
Mhm.
wrapped up in it that we don't see these day-to-day wins that we have every
Right.
day. and
Yep.
and we a lot of times shrug it off because we haven't reached that final destination. So that will be one really big thing that I would encourage you, to find that support system, that friend, that colleague, or whoever, that family member, whoever can help bring you back up. That's the one thing. And then, like Dave's been saying, we've both been saying, the momentum from 2022, just continue to maintain that. Again, if you have to take a look at those things that worked and those things that didn't work, do that self um, reflection. Make sure you're understanding what you should move forward with in 2023. I mean, really
Mhm.
take a look at those things that either worked or didn't, and continue to do it. And then really think about the future. Like Dave said, we don't know what's ahead of us, but we both go into the approach that um, optimistic that it could be a great year, and
Mhm.
hopefully, that's what happens. And we're aware that it could always turn to the other side of that. So we're just excited about the potential for 2023, what
Yeah.
that looks like and beyond. So with that, I think we've kind of covered this multiple
Yeah. Yeah.
times over and over again.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Another
excited
good
for the
talk.
new
Yeah.
year. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, yeah, don't compare yourself to other people. You don't know what
No.
their journeys have been like.
Right.
Focus on yourself and your support network and helping others, and keep a positive outlook, as challenging as it can be sometimes. And if you like what you're hearing and like what you're seeing from Joe and I,
Yeah.
give us a like, give us a share. Reach out to us. We really appreciate the comments and the feedback and the questions. That's going to be one of our driving things this year, is to really
Yeah.
incorporate more feedback from our listeners and viewers to make sure that we're covering the topics that you want to hear and view and listen to. So with that, thank you again for joining us for another episode of Journeys of Not So Ordinary People. And until next week, keep on being your not so ordinary you.